So, the top part of the heart is considered the base, okay, the wide part, okay? The pointed part is the apex. As we said, the heart is actually going to face, the anterior surface is going to be showing more of the right side than the left side. We talked about that in the lecture. Now, we have a depression, and the depression that we see here that separates the atrium from the ventricles is known as the coronary sulcus. Now remember from Anatomy 1, sulcus meant what? Depression, okay? So the coronary sulcus is the depression underneath this vessel. So I would say, the way I word the question is I'm going to say something along the lines of identify the depression and put a sticker here. Does that make sense to everybody? Because it's telling you, okay, depression should indicate he's talking about a sulcus. That's what he's looking for. Now there's a depression where this artery sits, and the name of the depression under here is going to be known as, very easily, interventricular sulcus. Does that make sense? Okay. Then if you look here, if I say identify this surface or this depression, the answer is what? Interatrial sulcus. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, that shouldn't be too hard. We're sort of hitting the things that are sort of the extra. This right here is the trachea. Okay. Notice the location of the trachea in relationship to the aorta. Everybody see that relationship? I'm going to mention that in a little while, about the importance of that relationship, where the trachea is relative to the aorta and the arch of the aorta. Next, we're going to go through the coronary vessels, okay? And one thing I want to note, all they did here, everybody see this window here? Okay, they labeled it as something different, like superficial muscle versus deep layer of muscle. You don't want to get crazy on that. All they're basically just showing you is that you have multiple layers that make up the myocardium. So the myocardium itself is made of multiple layers of cardiac muscle cells, cardiac muscle tissue, okay? Okay, so again, before we said blood passes from the left atrium to the left ventricle passes through the aortic semilunar valve, and then it goes into this vessel right here. What is the name of this vessel? Ascending aorta, excellent. There are two vessels that are coming and exiting out of the aorta. These two vessels right here are the right and the left coronary arteries. So we have the right and the left coronary arteries, okay? Now your book refers to this as like being the orifice of the right coronary artery, orifice of the left coronary artery. I don't care about that, just tell me it's what? Right coronary artery, left coronary artery, okay? Orifice just means opening, okay? So when we put the heart above it, this is a continuation of that right coronary artery. And the right coronary artery continues to go all the way around the right side, all the way along here, and stops about here. Now, one of the things that I have to warn you is that the model company, unfortunately, everybody see where this, it says, looks like 46 to me. It says 46 right here, okay? One of the things that the model company did was, in some of the heart models, they put 46 here, and some of the models of the heart, they put the 46 here, and sometimes they put them here. Does everybody understand that? It should have been placed here, okay? Because what we're saying is, from this point back is still the right coronary artery. From this point down is called the posterior interventricular artery. So this right here is called the what? Posterior interventricular artery. Well, posterior because we're on the posterior surface, interventricular because it's between the ventricles, and artery because it's an artery. Does everybody understand that? So what is this vessel? Posterior interventricular artery. Good. It's a lot to say. So, but this right here is called the what? Right coronary artery. Does everybody understand that? So right coronary artery and posterior interventricular artery. Good. Let's go back. We said that this is the right coronary artery as well, correct? So it continues around like this. We have this branch right here. It sits along the margin of the heart, or the edge. This right here is called the marginal coronary artery. So what's it called? Marginal coronary artery. Okay? So right coronary artery and what? Marginal coronary artery. When we look at the left side, this right here, just this little branch right here, is the left coronary artery. Just that little branch right there. When it splits, or the proper term for splitting is bifurcates. When it bifurcates, oftentimes the vessels change their name. So if we follow the left coronary artery, it splits into this vessel and it splits into this vessel. The vessel that moves down, that's moving in the interventricular sulcus, this vessel on the anterior side, actually has two names. It's called the left anterior descending which many people shorten down to LAD. Now on the exam, you have to refer to it as the left anterior descending because we need to make sure that you actually know the proper spelling of it and the name of it. Okay, LAD is not really giving us enough information. From that point forward though, okay, you can use the term LAD. Okay? The other name for this is the anterior interventricular artery. Anterior interventricular artery. Most people that I've ever heard of, in terms of physicians, refer to this as the LAD, left anterior descending. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't know anterior interventricular artery. So you have to know both, okay? Because you have to be prepared for both. So this again is the left anterior descending. 90% of heart attacks are a result of occlusion here, of a blockage here in the left anterior descending. Okay, so if somebody says I had a heart attack, you could probably say to them, oh, you had probably a blockage in the LAD or left anterior descending. And most people are gonna look at you and say, wow, how did you know that? Well, because the odds are what? 9 out of 10 people are gonna have a blockage in that artery. Now, that artery is so important because it's supplying so much of the ventricles. Does everybody understand that? That's the major supplier of the ventricles, okay? So this again is the left anterior descending, also known as the anterior interventricular artery. Now, how do you know the difference between the sulcus and the artery, which one I'm pointing to? It's based upon the question. If I say identify the vessel, the answer is left anterior descending. If I say identify the depression, it's what? Anterior interventricular sulcus. So we have left coronary artery, left anterior descending, or anterior interventricular coronary artery, and then we have this vessel that moves along the left side, and it's going around the circumference of the heart all the way to the posterior side. So it goes from here, all the way to here, all the way to here, and back along here. The name of this vessel is called the circumflex branch of the left coronary artery. So it's called the circumflex branch of what artery? Left coronary artery. Does that make sense? Circumflex, circumference, okay, left. Circumflex branch of the left coronary artery. Everybody have that? So these arteries are supplying oxygen to the heart, correct? So let's look at this right here. Let's look at this surface. Actually, let's look at the posterior surface. It's a little easier. So let's say that we're dealing with a cell right here. This cell is going to need oxygen. Does it get it from the chambers inside itself? No. Where does it get it from? The coronary arteries. Does everybody understand that? It gets it from the coronary arteries. So the oxygen goes down in this direction. The oxygen goes to this cell right here. That cell, its mitochondria, uses the oxygen and it gives off what? CO2. The CO2 then goes into this vessel right here and it travels back in this direction, back to what chamber? Right atrium. Does everybody get that? Okay, so it's not really going very far. It's staying basically on the surface of the heart. So this cell needs oxygen. It gets it from this the posterior interventricular artery. Oxygen goes to this cell. The cell gives off carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide goes in this direction and back to the where? Right atrium. Okay, but we obviously need to know the names of these vessels in blue. This vessel you said was what? We already talked about this one. Coronary sinus. So what's it called? Coronary sinus. What's it called? Coronary sinus. What's it called now? Coronary sinus. What's it called now? Coronary sinus. What's it called now? Coronary sinus. Very good. So either way, what is it called? Coronary sinus. Very good. Okay. This vessel right here is called the posterior cardiac vein. What's it called? Posterior cardiac vein. This one right here is called the middle cardiac vein. What's it called? Middle cardiac vein. So this is posterior cardiac vein, middle cardiac vein, and you see this small one right here? Everybody see that real small one there? That's small. It's small, right? It's called a small cardiac vein. Small cardiac vein. Good. So what's it called? Small cardiac vein. Okay, so this is what? Posterior cardiac vein, middle cardiac vein, and small cardiac vein. PMS. Okay? Everybody got it? Posterior cardiac vein, middle cardiac vein, and what? Small cardiac vein. This right here is called the what? Coronary sinus. Now, this vessel right here that we look around here, okay? We look around at this vessel right here, and this vessel right here, right along here. It's pretty large, right? I like this vessel. It's a great vessel, isn't it? It's called the great cardiac vein. So what's it called? Great cardiac vein. What's it called?
Great cardiac vein.
What's it called?
Great cardiac.
Good. And it all leads into this vessel right here called the what?
Coronary
Sinus, which goes into the...
right atrium.
Everybody got that? Okay, good. Let's go back to your table, start working on that.